Welcome, everyone. Very exciting day today for us. Thank you for joining us. I'm speaking from Aspire Institute. What you're seeing on the screen is information for next year's program. The application date is already open, and the early action deadline is December 14th. Final deadline is January 11th. So those of you who have already applied, congratulations. Look forward to receiving additional information from Aspire Institute. Those of you who are considering still, please either reach out to us if you have questions or go ahead and apply. We will look forward to receiving your application. And I'd like to again start by welcoming all of you and taking the time to be with us. Thank you so much for that. I am Meena. I'm the Executive Director of Aspire Institute, and I have my team who are helping me with today's session. The Aspire Institute's main goals are essentially to, one, raise your aspirations and build your confidence. We also strive to give you the skills, leadership skills that essentially can help with your own personal and professional development. And we encourage you to be in action after going through our program to make an impact in your communities. So that essentially is what we strive for. Our program, as you can see, is for 18 to 26 years of student, 6 years age. Anywhere in the world, you can apply to our program as long as you're 18 to 26 years of age and you're currently enrolled in college. Today's session is a special one, particularly because you're going to hear from 3 of the alumni who went through the 5 stages of the program. And in the 6th stage, which is where you get extended leadership opportunities, where we encourage you to be in action, they have been the winners of the Community Action Award. And that award essentially is for students to take an idea or take a problem in their community and propose a solution. It's a creative solution that allows you to use your leadership training that you've received through the Aspire program and through your own unique development. It allows you to partner with a local organization and then make a difference. So that's what you're going to be hearing today from the 4 alumni who have been the Community Action Award winners. And it's a privilege for me to introduce Professor Tarun Khanna. He is a Harvard Business School professor. He is also the co-founder of Aspire Institute. This work is very near and dear to his heart. He's been working on this for the last 6 years when this program was part of Harvard University. And then the program grew so big that it required us to take it outside of Harvard so that we can bring this to as many students as possible. And so Professor Khanna, without much delay, I'm going to turn on the event to you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Meena, and thank you to the entire Aspire team for pulling this together. You guys just do such amazing work on a daily basis. And thanks to all the several hundreds of you who have both signed on to Zoom and are on Facebook Live as we speak. There are still a handful of people who continue to type in the chat that they cannot hear. I'm sorry that we don't have an ability to do anything about that, because on our end, the systems are working fine. It's probably a local problem. We are recording this, so in the worst case, the recording will be posted by my colleagues Jenna or Amy, who are on the call. So hopefully that message can get to you, even though I realize maybe Amy, you can just type that in the chat that we'll be posting the recording. So it would be good for me to be able to see the faces of our 4 Community Action Awards finalists right now. I just see myself. Oh, there we are. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go through and I see some people have their hand up. Fareed, I'm not going to be able to call on people. There's 200 people, so please remove your hand. Thank you so much. We're just going to go through each of our 4 finalists. I'm going to say a little bit about how they use the Community Action Award to pursue something that was really important to them in their own home location. And then I will try to moderate a conversation across the 4 of them and myself. And if I could request our 4 finalists from last time and from previous years of Aspire to try to highlight as much the links to the program that they went through and links to the Aspire community, that would be very helpful. I think we have 3 participants from various parts of Africa, Cameroon, Nigeria, and Ghana, I think. And then we have somebody from Mexico, Zarek from Mexico. So whatever order you're in, can you guys start? Who's the first?
Zarek, go for it.
Sure. Well, my project, well, welcome everyone. It's nice to see you all here. And my project is Maestro Virtual. We have been working since last year. And the main goal that we have in Maestro Virtual is to push the use of technology in public education in my country. So nowadays we're working to establish and train the teachers in the usage of technology for their classes so that they are able to extend this learning to their students. So the main idea of the project is to impulse this change in the public education from my country. And it is a pleasure to help people and to experience all of this. So I am grateful with Aspire that they gave me this opportunity.
Tarun, you're on mute.
Somebody is muting and unmuting us, so maybe I shouldn't do that. Who's next? I think we had a pre. Okay, I'm going to call on people since nobody seems to really be following any order. Maria, why don't you go next from Kampala? Just unmute yourself and go ahead. You're muted, Maria. Please unmute yourself. Maria is still muted.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Maria Goretti Nabwebo from Kampala, Uganda. I'm a CAA award winner for the 2021 cohort. My project was about improving access to water and sanitation facilities in the informal settlements of Kampala using geographic information systems. And we aimed at solving some of the problems concerning sanitation in the slums of Kampala, where we focused on the largest slums in Nakawa division, and we aimed at making use of geographic information systems to bring out evidence and show what is really happening in these areas, and try to show the leaders what is happening and get them to act and advocate for more services in these areas because of the available information. And we worked so much with the community members themselves, where we equip them with technical knowledge on how to collect the data themselves and contribute to the for their areas. And we also contributed data to the OpenStreetMap platform from the data that was collected by the community people themselves. There were able to upload it to the OpenStreetMap platform, and we
Hello.
shared most of this data to the stakeholders, which included leaders and NGOs for slum areas and also working in the water sector. And we managed to get them to support these people. We got more support, and concerning the sanitation bit, they managed to improve their lives, change the toilets for them, and they constructed, and basing on the information that we had provided to them, and they are still moving on to improve the sanitation conditions in these areas, since it's the biggest problem that we found out that they're facing. So that is it from me.
Okay, thank you, Maria. So you know what, I'm going to repeat what both Zarek and Maria said, just to make sure, because the sound is often erratic in different ways. So Maria was just talking about using what's called GIS systems, which is basically, Maria, is it satellite based? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
satellite.
Yes.
Satellite-based data to form very detailed maps of water issues, clean water availability or sanitation issues in slums, in slums in Kampala, Uganda, and then to make that information available so that the communities can self-organize and use that to, I suppose, go to the authorities and make legitimate demands for access to clean water, and then to build a system around that. So it's a very promising type of idea. And of course, you know, something like water is so fundamental to human life and to human dignity in many ways. And so this is a fabulous project. Thank you, Maria. And Zarek earlier from Monterrey in Mexico was talking about the use of technology in public education systems. Zarek, are you mostly in schools, or are you in universities, or combinations? What's that domain?
Here in Mexico, we're focused in elementary schools, since they have the greatest population. We can push them to begin learning technology before they get through other academic levels.
I see. Okay. So he's focused on technology in primary schools. And already sort of an interesting thing is that both of them are using different kinds of technologies to pursue some kind of broader social agenda. So before I go to the next person, Faith, I'll go to you next in a minute. Before I go to the next person, there were a couple of, I'm seeing the chat scroll through very fast, but one of the people asked, what kind of event is this? Which I thought was an interesting question. So I thought it's probably worth addressing. So for those of you who are signing in out of interest in Aspire Institute, we are a nonprofit, a global nonprofit, headquartered right next to Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts in the United States. And we run a fully funded leadership development program for first-generation people in college all around the world. We have participants from 130 countries, and our program lasts roughly 6 months, which you do mostly online, and occasionally we have in-person events in different geographies. And it allows you access to fairly advanced levels of interesting people, interesting subjects, and I think equally importantly, or maybe more importantly, a peer group of people. So on the screen, you see people from three different countries, one in East Africa, 2 in West Africa, 1 from Francophone Africa, 2 from Anglophone Africa, and you see 1 person from Mexico. But really, you have the opportunity to form these peer groups all over, and it's really exciting. And we've been doing this for a few years. So we've got, I don't know how many, maybe 50,000 alumni, and really doubling and tripling every year. And we've got a number of our volunteers online. For instance, my very good old friend Patricio from Santiago in Chile is building out the community there. Another friend, Anil in Bangalore, is building out the community in India. Somebody else in Lahore is building it in Pakistan, and so on and so forth. So that's the nature of this event. And the people who are on the screen, the 4 participants, are those who've already been through the program in the past and made it all the way to the final stage, where they have the opportunity to compete for significant sums of money which they can then apply to a project of their choosing in their own geography. And that to me is like the really inspirational part of the project, because suddenly we are hoping in the next few years to have tens of thousands of these projects all over the world. And I think that can really create a ground movement for action. And we seem well on our way to getting there. So that's what this event is about. And if you are an alum, welcome back. And if you are not and are considering it, I think there's a link somewhere that you can sign on. And lastly, for those of you who are not able to hear, obviously you can't hear me saying this, but hopefully your friends will tell you that you can access the recording somewhere after this, or we will post it on the website. And in the event that we have contact information for those of you who have signed on, we will just somehow find a way to get you the link. Okay, let's move on. So Faith, how about you? You're in Yaoundé, Cameroon, so go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Greetings. So my project, agricultural education in schools, was inspired by the fact that agriculture plays a crucial role in the life of many Cameroonians. It employs about 70% of the population. And yet our government, Cameroon spends a lot of money on importation. And from the source, we see that the core problem is the fact that agriculture is undermined in our school systems. We have schools where there is where we have the curriculum and we have agriculture as a subject, as a course to be taught. Yet during that period, we don't have teachers, we don't have effective, efficient, qualified teachers, competent teachers to take the students through an agricultural course. And by the end of high school, the students are going to the university making choices, and agriculture never crossed their list because they don't know what agriculture is. They just, whenever agriculture is mentioned, people always articulate it to farming, whereas agriculture is so much more than farming. And with the recent happenings, we saw the Ukraine, the Russia crisis in Cameroon and in Africa, we had 30 tons of food shortage. So we see that agriculture is really important, and not just to Cameroonians, to the whole world. And it's a subject matter that if it's tackled at an early phase, if many young people get indulged in agriculture, we see that in the nearest future, we'll be able to attain the sustainable goal number 2, zero hunger. And not just that, employment, it's also, there's going to be an increase in employment rate and living standard. So my project was targeting high school students because they are the ones planning to get into the university. And when we got into classes, we've reached more than 500 people, 500 students in high schools. And when we got to the classes, I'm like, just a quick survey, who wants to be a doctor? Like half of the class, who wants to be an engineer? And then when I'm like, who wants to be an agriculturalist? I'm getting one person. And then in some schools, we didn't get any person. So it's a very basic problem that needs to be tackled at an early phase, at an early stage, because if it is not done, we are going to continue. Cameroonians, we're going to import everything, whereas we can produce that and sell to every other country. So that was my project, and successfully we worked with 7 high schools in Yaoundé, targeting the population, and we got to work with teachers to encourage them so that as we are leaving their school, they have the knowledge that they can continue with the next batch of students coming in. Thank you.
Thank you, Faith. That's very, very exciting. I think you're right. It's in so many developing countries, the vast majority of the young workforce ends up going into agriculture, but agriculture is not presented as an exciting opportunity. And from where I'm sitting in Boston, it is such a center of science in food systems. Super exciting, and we have so many new breeding techniques. We have genome sequencing. We have ways of micro targeting climate variation across a large field so that you can customize the delivery. of fertilizer and water and moisture and nutrients and so on to increase yields. So, this can, Faith, I think is onto something. You can really make it very exciting for young people. And the reason young people are saying, I want to be a doctor and not an agriculturist is that agriculture is not exciting to them. But it's so fundamental. And Faith brings up another nice point, which comes up in our program all the time, is that we aspire, the Aspire team, aspire to get to you the most cutting edge knowledge from around the world, from experts who volunteer with us. All of us are volunteers. Volunteer, everything is a voluntary act for us. So we try to get the best people in the world using the connections that we're fortunate to have. And what's, I think, nice about this program, the way it's emerged, is that we're able to connect it to current events. So you can see even in our participants, Faith, for instance, is talking about the crisis in Ukraine, Russia's attack on Ukraine, and the huge disruption it's caused in global food prices, right? Because Ukraine is the one of the bread baskets of the world and exports a lot of wheat in particular and a bunch of other stuff. And none of that stuff is going to many of the poor countries in the world. For instance, Egypt, if I remember, gets almost 70 or 80% of some pretty fundamental food stuff from Russia and Ukraine, and all that is frozen. So it's really important for us to find clever ways and to lead in our local communities. And that's what, Faith and Zarek and Maria have been doing in different ways. And now we'll go to our last but not least participant, Goodness. Why don't you go ahead? Goodness is calling in from southern Nigeria. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. So as rightly introduced, my name is Goodness Ode from Calabar, Cross River State, Nigeria. My project was titled Edupadiala Project. Let me use the word is because it's a continuous project. Now, why did I decide to apply and win the Community Action Award to implement the Edupadiala project? In my community, where I'm from, which is Yala local government in Cross River State, Nigeria, there's a big issue when it comes to women and girls managing a normal physiological process that is menstruation. And what I identified through a baseline assessment and previous voluntary engagement in my community is that many girls cannot afford disposable sanitary pads, so they adopt less hygienic materials to manage it. In addition, there are various myths and misinformation, stigma attached to the normal physiological process that is menstruation. So we're able to address this issue through embarking on community sensitization, providing adequate menstrual health education, at the same time debunking certain myths and misconceptions, and getting commitment from the community members that they would not attach any stigma to menstruation. To address the issue of inadequate access to menstrual hygiene materials, particularly sanitary pads, we trained over 1,001 women, girls, and boys. Yeah, it's interesting to hear that we trained and educated boys, right? Initially, we didn't plan to include boys in the project, but when we went on our community mapping and engaging critical stakeholders at the community level, in schools and community leaders, we realized that the issue is not just with the girls and the women. The boys have to be informed, the women have to be informed, so that there can be a collective action to support and achieve menstrual equity. So we educated and trained women, girls, and boys over 1,000 on the skill of producing reusable sanitary pad from easy to access, affordable, and eco-friendly materials. What this has changed in my community is that for the over 20 communities we're able to reach, the women and the girls are better able to live healthier lives and maximize their potentials without being limited by menstruation. The girls will not have to stop going to school because they are on their menstruation and they don't want to get stained, or the women will not be able to carry out their normal activities because they are not able to manage their menstruation. In addition, this has also served as a source of revenue to those who are thinking through commercializing the skill of producing reusable pad. 3 months ago, when we went back for the evaluation of the project in some communities we're able to impact on, I learned that some have been able to educate more girls, particularly their aunties, their sisters, even the boys too have educated more women and girls, which is showing a ripple effect in the project. Also, one of the participants in one of the secondary school called me and told me that she was going to her church and she was able to teach and educate the members of our church on how to produce the reusable pad and their sexual reproductive health. And that was really exciting for me because this is just a high school student. In Nigeria, she's in senior secondary school 1. So it's like amazing for me. The volunteers who joined me to go to my community to impact this, make this impact, which is a rural community, have also continued the ripple effect because I was also able to get them trained so that they can serve as trainee trainers, right? So they've also gone to their other communities, which is aside their local government, expanding the impact in Cross River State. I have a friend who's in Lagos State. I was able to also get her trained, and she's also making that impact in other parts of Nigeria. So there's been a ripple effect of the project, of the impact, and currently on the project, we have been able to gather some evidence-based through some questionnaire. I got ethical approval from the Ministry of Health to do that, and I'm currently working with my research team for us to get a research publication from our research to provide evidence-based that can serve as policy so that we can advocate for better menstrual hygiene facilities and to bridge that gap. Thank you. I don't know if anybody heard me.
Not getting him. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. If you're, would you please stay on mute, everybody else, so that we can just have our panelists focus. Goodness, we heard you really well. You were very, very articulate. And I'm just going to repeat and say, Goodness is working on promoting an understanding of menstrual health in southern Nigeria, in her community, and has really done amazing work at educating hundreds, maybe thousands of people, leveraging social connections, leveraging the local religious leaders, maybe leveraging the school system, and getting even as far as the Ministry of Health. And what I like, Goodness, about the way you were describing it, if I understood correctly, well, one of the really nice insights, if I remember from when you first did your presentation in the Aspire finals competition, I remember that there was less of an emphasis on educating boys, right? And that emerged from the project. So as she was implementing, you can see her nodding, as she was implementing the project, she realized, wow, we have to adapt and we can't leave these boys out, you know. I don't remember as a kid growing up in India ever being educated about menstrual health because it was not seen as relevant to me. But it makes all the sense in the world, right? It's common sense because we're all human beings, we all live together. And this is a physiological aspect of the human body. So it should be treated like a physiological aspect of the human body. So I think it's really wonderful. Do you want to say anything about changing your project as you developed? And then I'm going to ask the rest of you how you are, so just to give you 30 seconds to gather your thoughts, the other 3 people, think about how your project has evolved as you've gone around and what metrics you're using to track it. For goodness, do you want to start us off on how you arrived at that insight and what you had to change?
Okay, so for me, with my programs management skills and especially some of the skills I gleaned during the Aspire Leaders program, learning from the Harvard professors, I remember taking the community extension workers course on Harvard X, right? So those knowledge, skills, and even my course of study public health made me understand that there should be some level of flexibility and ability to adapt. So when we learned that there's a huge stigma, especially from the boys, when it comes to menstruation, the girls told us that they laugh at them, they mock them. We had to go to the roots. Why do these boys act in this manner? They don't understand what menstruation is. There was a lot of stigma and all of that. So that made us to be able to say, okay, how can we address this issue? And that transformed the project because we had boys and girls, especially in the school-based project, learning about menstruation. In the community level, when we gathered the women and the girls to talk to them, we also got men who came out and said they were interested. They wanted to learn how to support their wives, their sisters, their aunties, and their mothers, as the case may be, to manage their menstruation better. Also, we didn't leave it at menstruation for the boys. We also educated them on their sexual health, their reproductive health, because most of them were in their puberty stage or young boys. So it was also useful to them to be able to manage their health better, specifically on their sexual and reproductive health. And that was really transforming for the community. So yes, I am glad to be able to glean the skills of adaptation and also flowing with how the project is going and not being too rigid. And I'm also thankful to Aspire, because when that came up, I discussed with Mina and she was like, yes, we can go ahead and let's see how this goes. And I'm glad it went exciting.
Yeah, I think it's really fabulous. So, Goodness is illustrating how she's really been able to both contribute to the Aspire community, because this is a lifelong community. Once you're in it, you're part of us, we're part of you, and you keep helping out the next people who come after you. In English, we have a phrase, pay it forward, right? You do something good for other people, and then they come back and do it for other people still, and it spreads. And we see that really working nicely. So thank you, Goodness. And also, I want to highlight that she's picked up very interesting things from different parts of the Aspire project, right? Maybe discussing our ideas with peer groups from all over the world on settings like this, taking courses that we make accessible for free, discussing it with different faculty from different places, and different people pick up insights in different ways. And that's good, because the idea is to have what I would call a multiplex pipe of information going to you from different ways. And you pick and choose and learn. And I would say one of the things, I know there's lots of, for most of us, our first language is not English. It's not my first language. It's not the first language probably of anybody on the screen, I'm guessing. But we're all participating in what has become the common global language, English. And so I would encourage you not to be worried about that, and just to participate, whether your mother tongue is Arabic or Urdu or Spanish or French or local language from Africa, Kiswahili, anything. You should step up and participate. And I think that's part of leadership development, is learning to communicate with people who don't speak like you, don't sound like you. Sometimes I have to listen very carefully because I'm not used to the accent. But when you try, you get it. It's okay. And even if you get, 60% of it, it's fine. It's a good communication start. So don't let language be the barrier, for sure. Okay, Zarek, you had your hand up. Do you want to go next? We're going to have to keep it pretty short and concise, but the question for Zarek and then for the other two ladies is, did we lose somebody? We lost one person on the screen. Jenna, are we losing one of the participants? Maria, maybe? We're losing Maria. Okay, she'll come back. Oh, there she is. Okay. So Zarek, why don't you go next? How did you change your project and how are you tracking progress?
Well, actually, from my experience from this last year and by chatting with my peers from Aspire, I gotta say that entrepreneurs need to be able to adapt to the necessities in the market. I like a lot the idea for Goodness to adapt to this necessity. In my personal case, my project, it needed to adapt to some specific necessities for the technology usage. Here in Mexico, there are some cities, some places that they do not have access to internet connection. They do not have access to technology. Even a cell phone, they do not have this. So by providing this training, by adapting to the challenges, you can find solutions to those challenges. So then you can come out with a new idea with other projects that come down from your main idea. And I think that is very important for the entrepreneurs to not be just focused in the main idea, be capable of to adapt your project, that it's going to make your project to become stronger and helpful for people.
Fabulous, Eric. And so that's exactly right. I'm mostly an academic, but I'm also an entrepreneur. I like to start things. I find it very creative, very exciting. And almost always when you immerse yourself in a problem, many other things occur to you. And so as Zarek was saying, if you're trying to effect change, you have to always be considering what's the best use of the limited resources that I have, whether it's money, organization, time. Should I stick to the core thing that I started, or should I adapt my experiments as I move along? And there's no simple answer. There's no recipe, which is why you need creativity. But at the end of the day, practice is what makes it work better. Thank you, Zarek. Maria, you want to go next?
Okay. Yes, for me, the evolution I saw in my project was the fact that since I was using GIS, Geographic Information Systems, introducing it to the local organizations that were working it really loved the idea of using GIS, using evidence-based information to show the status of the situations in these areas. So they are currently actually adapting to the use of GIS as well. They are seeing it not only as a way of advocacy, but also as they are making proposals for their different projects. They are like, when you have information that shows what you're talking about, it comes out better. And another evolution I saw was the inspirations we gave to those young community people we worked with. Yes, who were young people, and working with fellow community young people was really something big for them. They appreciated the knowledge we had, and we were actually an inspiration to them. They actually saw it as an opportunity to also study harder, explore different disciplines, and get themselves somewhere. That is it.
So great, Maria. Thank you. Thank you very much. So Maria, remember, was using the geographic information system, satellite-based information, to highlight problems of clean water in the slums in Kampala. And what I'm hearing her say is that she's realized as she pursues this, that different aspects of the community are kicking in. Some of them require more hand-holding, some of them require more encouragement, some require incentives. And over time, you build up a coalition, in some sense, to foster that change process, to use technology to solve the most basic human need, which is access to water. If you don't have access to water, none of the rest of it will matter. So it's super important. But thank you, Maria. Faith, are you there? I don't see you, but if you're there, maybe you can say a word, and then we have to wrap up. Did we lose Faith, or is she there?
I'm there. Connection, internet connectivity.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Go ahead.
When I submitted my proposal, it was mainly about a theoretical session with the students, and then we'll get into the school farm, and do some practicals. But as we went on for the first time, we saw that there was the transformational part of agriculture, that if we did not bring in that part, the students will not really understand what we are telling them when we tell them that there's vast opportunities in agriculture. They're still going to be used to the fact that agriculture is farming. So we brought the transformational part of agriculture, during which we produce our savon, a soap from cassava leaf extract. So it's kind of a sustainability plan using cassava leaf, which could just be dumped, to do something extra with it. And when they saw this, they were marveled, especially the chemistry students in our target group. They're like, okay, this is something they are supposed to do. This is something that they've taught them. That is a saponification process. They've taught them in chemistry how to do it, but they have not had that experience before. They have not taken that experiment. And we also did the production of costa powder, enhanced costa powder from corn flour, just doing the mixing with some other ingredients and bringing out the end product. And I think this was the highlight of the project. We didn't have this at the beginning, but when this was implemented, the students were more engaged, because we did not just do it for the first time. We did it, and when the students were just watching. And for the final phase of our project, we brought this in, and we made sure that every student touched the process. They went through the process. So they did not just hear about it, they were part of it. And they were really, it was fascinating how the students, like the chemistry students, they really loved it. And in some other schools, when we came and then we shared the idea that we had to use their opposite, because opposite is the last high school class in Cameroon. And for the for the school authority to let us to use the opposite when they are preparing for the final for the final end of their final exam to get into the university. That is something totally different. So we had to take, I mean, I had to work a lot with the regional delegate of secondary education for the central region. And it was her permission that permitted us to have this part of the project, to work with opposite students. And in as much as we presented to the school that this project is not just for the benefit, or it's not just about us completing our project, the students, they need this experience, they need this experiment. It is something that you guys clearly have on your system as to what you have to do, but you're not doing it.
That's great. Faith, thank you. It's so exciting for me to see the excitement in your voice. I think that's the best part. But and what Faith is saying, I experience as a teacher every day, right? So I go in and I teach a class and you realize, oh, the students are not connecting to this. Whether my students are, prime ministers of countries, or they are students in, freshman year in college at 18, it doesn't matter. You have to find a way to communicate in a way that your audience understands it. Doesn't matter who the audience is. And what Faith is realizing is that she went in and started talking about the importance of agriculture, and until she was able to do it in a way that meant something to them and that opened up new possibilities, it was very hard to make a connection. And I think that's just such a basic lesson for all of us, no matter what we're doing. So folks, first of all, please join me in thanking Maria, Faith, Goodness, Zarek, 4 different countries, 4 different parts of the world. Really wonderful to hear of your projects. We're so privileged to have you as part of the community, and we're privileged to have the opportunity to serve everybody. And then just create this global network of young leaders who will change the world. That's my aspiration. And the more you aspire, the better off we are. So thank you, everybody. I'm going to hand back to Mina and Jenna and whoever else is on, Amy. So back to you, Aspire team.
Great. Thank you, Tarun, and to our wonderful Aspire Community Action Award winners from 2021, who are continuing to both help us with the current year. They will be there to guide folks as they're thinking about applying to the Aspire program in the upcoming year. They're inspiring us and they're inspiring you. So again, sincere thanks to all of you, our participants, our panelists, for being with us. And for those of you who've joined us in the middle of the session, again, the idea, the Aspire Institute, the Aspire Leaders Program is for students who are 18 to 26 years of age, first generation from low income, currently enrolled in college, or you have recently graduated from college. You qualify to apply to our program. The application is open and you can get more information on our website. The first cycle closes on January 11th. So you still have time to apply. And we look forward to receiving our application. And the idea is it's a multi-stage leadership development program. You get opportunities to do a self-assessment of your own abilities and skills, and you get a full description of your aptitudes that might guide you in your professional and personal growth. You also get an opportunity to take 4 different Harvard X courses. And in addition, one is a compulsory course on entrepreneurship and leadership. And that, if you complete that course, you get a free Harvard X certificate. Once you complete that, you get to move to the 3rd stage of the program. This 3rd stage is a synchronous learning of 90 minutes from various world-class educators who will talk about a topic either related to the arts and humanities or the sciences or social science. And then you get to engage in a conversation in real time with these professors as well as your peers. So that's your 3rd stage. The 4th stage, if you complete the 3 stages, you move to the 4th stage of the project. And in that, you get access to a couple of associates from the Harvard Business School admissions, as well as Career Development Center, where they will encourage and give you guidance in terms of putting a full resume together, or if you're interested in a personal essay, that's another thing. So various soft skill development is what you would have access to in your stage 4. And then after you complete that, some number of students get selected to enter into stage 5, which is the final stage of the program. And that's an immersive learning where over 2 weekends, you are in a classroom setting with 4 different Harvard Business School faculty members, and you will get an experience of a Harvard-style classroom learning. And what that entails is you get assignments, you're going to get case studies, you're going to meet with your peers in a discussion group prior to coming into the classroom, where you discuss the case with your peers, and then you participate. And so that's your final stage. And it's a very exciting time because you're in that classroom with cohort from all over the world. And then finally, as you complete your stage 5 is what you get, what Faith and Maria and Zarek and Goodness have described to you, which is you compete for this Community Action Award. You're using the knowledge you have gathered over the 5 stages, and you are partnering with your local organizations, pitching an idea, making the change. So that's your full sort of cycle with Aspire. You become part of our community. You can sign back on as our ambassadors and then give back. And so as Tarun was describing, you pay it forward. What you learn, you give it forward to your peers, your siblings, your family members who you think will qualify. And so it's a wonderful opportunity for all of you to put into practice what you would be learning. And the whole program, the 5 stages last about 4 to 6 months, and then you have a whole year of the extended leadership opportunities. So again, with that, I know that's a lot of information. Please visit our website, send us an email if you have questions. If you've already applied, congratulations. We'll look forward to seeing you as part of your journey. We will be with you. And I think we have few minutes for some questions. And let's see, Zarek, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for being here, and just I want to share my experience in a brief way. The course that I received from Aspire Institute in the beginning of my program it was from Professor Taran. It was entrepreneurship in emerging economies. So the opportunity to get knowledge from these professors, this faculty, inspired me to get this idea of trying to give something to my community. So people here trying to do something for your communities, people that you want to begin a project and you do not know how to give back to your community, or even if you are like nervous to apply for something like this, trust me, this is a huge opportunity that can change your life. I totally, I am very happy for being here with you. And actually, you are going to enjoy this journey. I have my friends from my generation, and I keep on contacting them. And for becoming a part of this community is going to help you a lot in your professional and personal development. So I totally encourage you to become a part of the Aspire community.
Great, thank you for that. I'll take one last question and we'll have to close the session. So Martin?
Yes, madam. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the whole session. I think my question is very simple. I'm really inspired by all the winners on when it comes to Community Action Awards. My question is coming on. I've just noticed that most of the projects, which of the winners or the awardees, were focused mostly on non-profit, like they were built around non-profit thereabout. is it a must that all the action awards or projects should focus on non-profit, or some people can even focus on social enterprise model where if you can make profit, you can reinvest back to achieve sustainability? So I just wanted to understand there.
Yeah, Mark, let me answer that. It's a great question. No, there is no stipulation that it be a nonprofit. The stipulation is that it should benefit the community in some way. And so if I understand what you're saying, if it's a social enterprise, in many ways, that's even better. If you can find a way to generate economic returns from the social intervention so that you can keep on reinvesting in the project, that's fabulous. So we encourage that. In fact, we had a lot of applications like that. It's just that these are some of the ones who ended up being the most compelling projects. And we run it as a very fair global competition. So these impressive people that you saw show up, the three ladies and the gentleman, are simply the ones who in a fair process came through as having the best project. So I encourage you to join in and compete with your idea, and we'll see how far you get.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Mina?
All right, great. Thank you again, Tarun, and our speakers, and for everyone taking the time to be with us today.
Okay, great job, everybody.